Before Hounddog even speaks, it makes you feel the weight of its world. The camera doesn't rush, it lingers. Dusty roads stretch into the horizon. The heat hangs in the air, almost tangible, pressing against the characters like an unspoken truth. In these first moments, you're not being told a story. You're being placed inside it, forced to breathe the same air, see the same cracked sidewalks, hear the same faint hums of life in a small southern town. There's a quiet tension that runs beneath everything, a sense that innocence and cruelty coexist in ways that are both ordinary and shocking. Brooke Shields' role may have drawn the headlines, but it's the young protagonist Llewellyn who commands the screen with a presence that is at once fragile and undeniable. The film doesn't cushion her experience. It doesn't build up drama with flashy edits or musical cues. Instead, it trusts the audience to sense the emotional currents beneath her quiet movements, her hesitant smiles, her eyes that carry questions too heavy for her age. Every glance and pause is loaded. The world she inhabits feels worn and lived in, from the peeling paint of the house she calls home to the coarse edges of the town's streets, as if the environment itself is shaping her understanding of people, power, and survival. From the opening, Hounddog places you in the intersection of youth and hardship. There is a slow burn of intimacy with the landscape, with the music, and with the people who populate it. Conversations are clipped, casual, but weighted with implication. A neighbor's remark, a parent's silence, a passerby's glance, they all resonate more than you realize. The film's tension doesn't come from action, but from anticipation, from knowing that innocence in a world this harsh is never protected for long. It's a meditation on growing up too fast, on the way pain and joy collide, and on the strange resilience of a child forced to navigate complexity far beyond her years. Hounddog isn't designed to comfort you, it's designed to make you feel seen, and sometimes unsettled. The opening sequences, almost deceptively calm, set the tone for what the audience is about to witness, a story where emotions are raw, consequences are immediate, and empathy is not optional. You are being invited into a narrative that asks difficult questions about trauma, healing, and the human need to find voice in a world that often silences the most vulnerable. By the time the first act settles, you realize this is not a film that apologizes for its gaze. It watches, it listens, it holds space for experience without flinching. The intro is patient but unrelenting, preparing viewers for a journey that will challenge preconceptions about childhood, resilience, and the small, often brutal details that shape a life before it has fully begun. It doesn't just start a story, it immerses you in it, demanding attention, empathy, and reflection. The heart of Hounddog rests in its characters, brought to life by a cast that balances raw authenticity with deeply felt performances. At the center is Llewellyn, portrayed with an unsettling and captivating maturity by Dakota Fanning. She carries the weight of the story with subtle gestures, quiet resilience, and a vulnerability that draws the audience into her world immediately. Llewellyn is a child navigating the collision of innocence and trauma, and Fanning's performance never allows the viewer to look away. She is both fragile and unnervingly perceptive, a mirror reflecting the harsh realities of her environment. Brooke Shields plays Llewellyn's mother, whose presence is complex and contradictory. She embodies the tension of adult imperfection, the ways in which care, neglect, and desire intersect in lives that are far from idealized. Shields' performance highlights the nuanced layers of parental influence, showing both warmth and failure, love and distance. The supporting cast enriches the small-town setting, each character adding texture and dimension. Neighbors, teachers, and community figures are not mere background. They are catalysts that shape Llewellyn's experience, some through subtle guidance, others through indifference or cruelty. These performances are understated but essential, creating a believable ecosystem of adults whose actions reverberate through the young protagonist's world. The dynamic among characters is rarely comfortable. Conversations feel loaded. Silences speak volumes, and relationships shift with the tension of real life. Collectively, the cast demonstrates a commitment to authenticity, ensuring that every interaction, glance, and gesture contributes to the film's exploration of trauma, resilience, and the fraught journey from childhood to awareness. From the very first scene, Hounddog positions its audience in the unvarnished reality of a small, rural southern town, where the heat presses down, the dust clings to clothes, and every interaction carries weight beyond words. The story revolves around Llewellyn, a young girl navigating a life of quiet neglect and the faint echoes of trauma that ripple through her family and community. She is fiercely independent in ways that often feel unnatural for her age, driven by curiosity, stubbornness, and an intuitive understanding that she must manage her own survival. The narrative begins with her daily routines, interactions with neighbors, and tentative friendships, scenes that feel ordinary until they slowly reveal the underlying currents of emotional and societal tension. Llewellyn's mother, portrayed by Brooke Shields, is both a source of fleeting comfort and instability. Her love is real but inconsistent, her guidance limited by her own personal struggles. This inconsistency leaves Llewellyn to forge her understanding of morality, trust, and intimacy almost entirely on her own. In the early plot, we witness her observations of adult life, moments of tenderness interspersed with casual cruelty, the complex dynamics of power and desire that she absorbs without fully understanding. Her environment is simultaneously protective and threatening. A neighbor's kindness may offer fleeting refuge, while a casual remark from an adult can feel as sharp and confusing as a moral lesson misdelivered. The plot deepens when Llewellyn encounters an adult male neighbor whose attention crosses boundaries she is too young to navigate. This relationship is portrayed not as romance but as a profound moment of vulnerability and danger. The film does not shy away from the consequences of misplaced trust, highlighting the way trauma can arrive abruptly and unannounced. Llewellyn's reactions are visceral yet restrained. Dakota Fanning's performance ensures that every glance, pause, or flinch carries the weight of lived experience rather than melodrama. These events drive the plot forward with relentless tension, forcing the audience to sit with discomfort and confront the realities of childhood violation. Amidst this turbulence, Llewellyn discovers moments of agency. She forms connections with peers, engages with music, and finds solace in the small victories of daily life. Each plot point, whether a fleeting friendship, a shared joke, or a moment of private reflection, contrasts starkly with the darker events she endures. This duality is central to the narrative. Hounddog is as much about what she experiences as it is about how she processes it, the inner strength that emerges in response to trauma. The story never simplifies her emotions into binary categories of good or bad, safe or unsafe. It emphasizes complexity, the shades of resilience and fragility coexisting within her psyche. The pacing of the film reflects this complexity. Scenes unfold with deliberate slowness, allowing the audience to inhabit Llewellyn's perspective fully. Long takes and lingering shots emphasize her isolation, her quiet observations, and the ways she negotiates adult spaces. When she witnesses cruelty, the camera does not flinch. When she experiences kindness, the moments are intimate without sentimentality. Each sequence builds the emotional architecture of the story, connecting the audience to her inner life as intimately as to the external events shaping her world. As the movie progresses, the tension escalates. Llewellyn confronts both her abuser and the structural neglect surrounding her. There are confrontations that test her courage, and scenes where the consequences of her environment become painfully clear. The film's climax is not a spectacle but an emotional reckoning, where Llewellyn asserts control in the only ways available to her. It is a mixture of defiance, survival, and understanding, a moment that crystallizes the film's exploration of childhood resilience against systemic and personal trauma. The story of Hounddog is unflinching, refusing to simplify or sanitize the experiences it portrays. Every scene is designed to immerse the viewer in Llewellyn's reality, highlighting both the harshness of her world and the moments of subtle triumph that make her survival possible. Music, performance, and cinematic framing work in tandem to create an experience that is at once difficult, intimate, and unforgettable. By the end, the audience is left not with closure but with reflection, an understanding of what it means to grow up in a world that can be unforgiving, and the quiet courage it takes to find one's voice amidst it. Ultimately, Hounddog is a story about the interplay of vulnerability, trauma, and emerging self-awareness. The plot does not aim for shock value, it aims for honesty, demanding that viewers witness the complexities of Llewellyn's world without looking away. Through her eyes, the audience sees a community shaped by imperfection, a childhood complicated by forces beyond comprehension, and the extraordinary resilience that can arise in response. It is a story that lingers long after the screen goes dark, reminding us that survival is rarely simple, and courage is often quiet, subtle, and deeply human. From the moment Hounddog premiered, it became impossible to separate the story from the storm surrounding it. The film was immediately controversial, not just for its content, but for the age of its lead actress, Dakota Fanning, who was only 12 at the time of filming. The central scenes depicting sexual assault triggered outrage across media outlets, advocacy groups, and political commentators. Parents, critics, and the public questioned the ethics of having a child actor portray such trauma, even in a controlled professional environment. Headlines were loud and often sensational, framing the movie as scandalous before many had even seen it. In several states and international markets, the film faced restrictions or outright bans. Some theaters refused to screen it, citing both moral concerns and fear of public backlash. The MPAA gave it an R rating in the United States, a classification that some argued was insufficient given the sensitive subject matter. Critics and journalists debated endlessly whether the depiction constituted exploitation or whether it was an honest, albeit uncomfortable, portrayal of trauma. Film scholars entered the discussion too, emphasizing the intent behind the narrative, the professional safeguards on set, and the ways in which cinema has historically tackled difficult subject matter. Still, the louder voices were often those demanding censorship, concerned primarily with the optics of a child actress involved in such a storyline. Beyond official bans and ratings, the controversy highlighted broader societal discomfort with how childhood trauma is portrayed on screen. Hounddog forced a national conversation about consent, the responsibilities of filmmakers, and the limits of artistic expression when minors are involved. Some advocacy groups argued that no amount of context or artistic intent could justify involving a preteen in simulations of sexual assault, while others maintained that Fanning's performance was crucial to communicating the emotional weight of the story authentically. Talk shows, newspapers, and online forums were filled with heated debates, and the film became a touchstone for discussions about morality, media responsibility, and the cultural appetite for provocative storytelling. Internationally, the controversy also affected distribution. Several countries required edits before allowing release, while others delayed the film entirely. The backlash was amplified by the novelty of seeing a young, well-known actor in such challenging material, and by the media's framing of the story as a potential scandal rather than a piece of independent filmmaking. Even years later, Hounddog is referenced in debates about the ethics of child actors in adult-themed stories, a reminder that cinema's most difficult narratives often provoke the strongest public reactions. Despite or perhaps because of the controversy, Hounddog gained attention far beyond its intended audience. Viewers, critics, and scholars were forced to grapple with the questions it raised. What is appropriate for art to depict? How do we protect young performers while still exploring human experience honestly? And what role does outrage play in shaping cultural memory of a film? In many ways, the controversy became inseparable from the movie itself, influencing its reception, its legacy, and the ongoing conversations about cinema. ethics, and the boundaries of storytelling. Despite the intense controversy surrounding Hounddog, the film's impact extends far beyond headlines and moral panic. Over time, it has come to be discussed not just for the shock it provoked, but for the way it confronts difficult realities of childhood trauma, resilience, and survival. Scholars and critics have noted that while the immediate reaction focused on Dakota Fanning's age and the uncomfortable content, the movie itself is a deeply human story, exploring how children navigate emotional, familial, and societal challenges that often go unacknowledged. It forced audiences to recognize the harsh realities some children endure, and in doing so, carved a space for conversations about empathy, understanding, and the ethical responsibilities of filmmakers. The legacy of Hounddog is also tied to its lead performance. Dakota Fanning's portrayal of Llewellyn remains a benchmark in child acting, showing a depth and emotional maturity rarely expected from performers so young. Critics have pointed out that her ability to convey trauma, internal conflict, and emerging agency elevated the film above mere sensationalism, giving it a gravity that demanded engagement rather than dismissal. In retrospective analysis, the film is often cited as an example of independent cinema's capacity to tackle complex, uncomfortable subject matter without resorting to melodrama, and it highlights how thoughtful direction can ensure that sensitive material is handled with care while still retaining its narrative potency. The cultural conversation around Hounddog also influenced broader discussions about child actors in challenging roles. It raised important questions about on-set safeguards, audience reception, and the line between ethical responsibility and artistic expression. These discussions continue to resonate today as filmmakers, critics, and viewers debate what stories can be told and how they should be represented, particularly when dealing with vulnerable subjects. In this way, the film's impact extends beyond its narrative. It became part of the evolving dialogue about morality, cinema, and society's willingness to confront difficult truths. Even outside the academic or critical sphere, Hounddog has left a mark on independent filmmaking. Its raw, unflinching aesthetic, emphasis on character-driven storytelling, and refusal to sanitize harsh realities influenced other directors seeking to balance narrative depth with ethical sensitivity. The film also serves as a touchstone for millennials who grew up witnessing the rise of Dakota Fanning and the media scrutiny surrounding her roles, offering a cultural memory of a period when independent films could provoke national debate simply by daring to depict reality in unfiltered form. Ultimately, the legacy of Hounddog is paradoxical. It is remembered for controversy, yes, but also for courage. It is cited in conversations about what stories cinema should tell, about the responsibility filmmakers have to both their actors and their audiences, and about the power of performance to transform even the most uncomfortable narratives into something profoundly human. Years after its release, the film continues to resonate, not as a spectacle of scandal, but as a stark, unflinching portrait of resilience, survival, and the quiet strength found in a young girl's determination to navigate a world that often seems intent on breaking her. As the screen fades to black and the dust settles over Llewellyn's world, Hounddog leaves audiences with a lingering tension that isn't easy to shake. The film doesn't offer tidy resolutions or cathartic payoffs. Instead, it asks its viewers to sit with discomfort, to consider the small victories amid trauma, and to reflect on the quiet, often invisible strength it takes to survive a world that doesn't always protect its most vulnerable. Llewellyn's journey is not a story of heroism in the traditional sense. It is a story of endurance, of navigating the impossible with the tools she has, and of finding moments of agency where none seem apparent. In this sense, the film resonates far beyond its immediate narrative. Watching Hounddog, we are reminded that childhood is not a universal idol. It can be brutal, confusing, and isolating. The film challenges viewers to confront the realities of neglect and abuse without flinching, and in doing so, it forces a broader reflection on society's role in the lives of children. Llewellyn becomes a lens through which we examine not only her town, her family, and her abuser, but the cultural systems that often fail children in silence. The film does not provide answers, it provides observation, empathy, and a mirror to uncomfortable truths. At the same time, the movie emphasizes resilience and subtle triumph. Every small act of defiance, every fleeting moment of connection or understanding highlights the quiet power of the human spirit. Llewellyn's story is painful, yes, but it is also a testament to the ways people, even at their youngest, can endure and navigate trauma. The narrative refuses to simplify her experience into easily digestible lessons. Instead, it honors complexity, showing that survival is messy, morally complicated, and often deeply human. Hounddog also reminds us of the responsibility of storytelling itself. It sparks debate not simply for shock value, but because it navigates delicate territory with intention. The film underscores the ways cinema can confront society with its blind spots, its failures, and its unspoken truths. It becomes an invitation for audiences to engage critically with what they watch, to question ethical boundaries, and to consider the ways art can illuminate uncomfortable realities without exploitation. By the end, the film leaves a dual impression: discomfort and admiration. Discomfort at the reality it portrays, the events Llewellyn must endure, and the societal shortcomings it exposes. Admiration for the courage of the performers, the vision of the director, and the willingness of independent cinema to tell stories that mainstream culture might prefer to ignore. It challenges audiences to carry the weight of what they have witnessed and to let that experience inform not just their understanding of the film but of the world around them. Ultimately, Hounddog closes on a note of reflective uncertainty. It refuses to provide neat closure or emotional shorthand. Instead, it asks us to remember, to consider, and to reckon with the fragility and resilience of youth. Llewellyn's journey is over as the credits roll, but its echoes linger, urging viewers to hold space for discomfort, to recognize the quiet strength in survival, and to understand that sometimes the most powerful stories are those that refuse to be easy.